Welcome to Washington Square News. This is Op-Ed Live. I'm joined today by Christina Coleburn and Dan Moritz-Rabson to talk about an issue that is sensitive to so many. So we'll try to discuss it carefully. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So let's get started. I'd like to kind of set this off with a statistic that kind of puts the whole issue into perspective. According to an Emory University study, more than 1,000 suicides occur on college campuses each year. So what's factoring into this? It's a staggering statistic.
Right, and beyond that statistic of 1,000 completed suicides on college campuses annually, there's still the larger statistic of 1 in 4 young adults between the ages of 18 to 24, which is us,
yeah.
college students, who have a diagnosable mental illness. And the number one reason that these students do not come forward is fear of being stigmatized. And that's a real problem that needs to be addressed both at NYU and in the larger society.
Yeah, Dan?
The American Psychiatric Association listed suicide as the second leading cause for college-age students. And considering why this is occurring, I mean, yes, there is a stigma, and I think that plays a huge role. But in addition to that, there are many undergraduates coming into their freshman year. They feel a little bit unstable. They're in a new environment. They have a lot of new freedom. And there's a lot of pressure to do well in school, to get good grades, to try and get a job. You know, they're trying to set up their whole future, and that can be incredibly stressful, and I think that can tip the balance of mental health.
And touching upon what you just said, Dan, students cited depression and anxiety as the number one impediment to successful academic performance. So it's definitely part of a vicious cycle.
And that's all especially true in a school like NYU, where we're open campus and in a daunting city. Yeah, I mean, we're just out there. But let's come back to your point, Christine, about stigmatization being the number one reason that students don't seek help. The National Alliance on Mental Illness backed that up with its study that found that only 34% of students nationwide struggling with mental illness seek help.
Right, and this statistic is even more troubling when you consider that almost 73% of students who live with some sort of mental health condition have experienced a crisis, or what can be quantified as a crisis, on college campuses. It's definitely an issue, and when you think of the larger society's view on medicine, on health, if you have a problem with your liver or your heart, you take medicine, you get treatment. It seems to be it's a problem you have that can be treatable, that can be treated. We need to start viewing the brain as an organ that may have some issues, a chemical imbalance, but still, no one is beyond redemption.
Yeah, I agree. Well, okay, let's bring the issue home. Let's bring it to NYU. NYU's mental health services are often nationally lauded for their thoroughness, and they're considered the best in the nation. NYU even calls its mental health program a model in the higher education community. But some of the horror stories we hear about long wait times and insufficient care undermine those claims. What do you think about the state of NYU's mental health services?
Right,
Well, when looking at the numbers posted on the NYU Health website, for counseling and wellness employees, there's only 34 employees to serve 38,000 graduate and undergraduate students. So it may not be the quality of the care that's the problem, but the ratio, because in a time of crisis, there may be, a flood of people who need services. They need somebody to talk to. They need help, and if there's that huge discrepancy in how many students can be with one psychiatrist, psychologist at any given time. Not everybody is going to be able to obtain the help they need. And plus, there's huge, based on personal stories that I've heard, there's huge wait times in both walk-in hours and for setting up an appointment.
Sure. Christina?
Right, I agree. Although NYU has done a rather marvelous job in amplifying its efforts, it's still a very large problem. As college enrollment has increased over the years, there's been a boom in prevalence of mental health issues, depression, of anxiety. So while NYU is doing or stepping up its efforts, there still needs to be more done, both at NYU and in domestically in college campuses.
Well, keeping it on NYU, sometimes involuntary leaves are imposed on students suffering from mental illness.
Right.
Good move, bad move?
I think it's largely inappropriate. Overall, I would say if a student has posed some sort of imminent danger or threat to himself, herself, or others, that may be qualified for a leave of absence. But at the same time, we need to more specifically and narrowly define what that means.
Yeah, just expanding on that, I think it's largely inappropriate in the majority of cases to send a student home because it just increases the stigma. If you say you come in for depression, anxiety, whatever it is, you think you're not able to cope with the mental health issues that you're dealing with in a new environment or for whatever the reason, and then you send them home, that's not really going to help unless it's a very, very extreme case. I think in cases where an individual poses a threat to somebody else, then yes, that's probably the appropriate response because somebody else's health is in danger. But I think NYU needs to take more accountability for something that can potentially be solved and really work one-on-one with these students and try and improve whatever issues they're having. And that's where the ratio comes back into play. If there's only 12 psychiatrists and psychologists, because that's what the numbers are, there's only 12 certified psychologists, psychiatrists working at the wellness center for counseling, and there's a lot of people coming. Once again, that's not a good ratio.
Yeah, we're ostracizing the group that we're trying to destigmatize.
Exactly.
Solutions for NYU?
I would say that it might be helpful for NYU to replicate the alcohol EDU program that it uses for incoming freshmen, perhaps to just show the warning signs, telltale signs, resources where their students can go if they have any sort of trouble or mental illness or any symptoms of a mental illness. And furthermore, just the larger problem with stigma in society that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, I agree. But before we go, I think it's important that we restate the great services that NYU does have. The Wellness Hotline is live 24/7. Walk-in counseling is offered 60 hours a week at the Student Health Center, and one-on-one counseling services are offered if you need more personal care. The service is there. You just have to go out and look for it. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.